I feel like there's so many people out there who genuinely believe that they have trust issues. And I don't think that's the case at all. I feel like people don't have an issue trusting. Like you can trust family members, you can trust friends, you can trust coworkers to a certain extent. Like you don't have an issue with giving your trust. I think when we're speaking in a relationship, intimate sense, I think that people have been trusting to the point where their trust has been misused and abused, and the pain that comes with trusting somebody with so much of you and being vulnerable came with a price. It came with consequences. And a lot of people don't want to feel those consequences of trusting the wrong person or trusting someone who's undeserving of the love and the vulnerability they're capable of giving. And therefore, I think a lot of people avoid trusting people in relationships or avoid getting in relationships so that way they don't have to potentially feel that hurt and feel that pain again. And I get it and I understand. I think when a lot of people talk about healing, you need to heal, you need to work on you, you need to heal, you need to work on you. I feel like that's very obvious, but no one ever tells you how. Nobody ever tells you what that looks like. Nobody ever tells you what to do. And I feel like that's because it's different for everybody. Everyone's in a different place when it comes to healing. Everybody's in a different place when it comes to trauma. Everyone's in a different place in their life as far as the work that they need to do as an individual in order to be in a healthy enough place to recognize when a situation or relationship is no longer beneficial, when it's no longer healthy, when it's no longer working for you. And I think part of being in a relationship, well, not necessarily think, I know that part of being in a relationship is having the ability and a capability to trust the person that you're with, to be vulnerable, to be open, to be able to be you and know that being you is enough in that space, but also it's not going to get taken advantage of. And I know for me, when it came to healing, I had to recognize what was toxic and what wasn't toxic. And some people say, well, I could point that out easy until they get in a relationship and they're so oblivious that they're in a toxic relationship because they're so in love. They're focused on all the good parts and they're focused on the parts that feel good instead of looking at the entire picture and realizing that this person isn't giving you these things because they want to or this is who they are. They give you these things because they're trying to manipulate you or they're trying to get something from you. And they know if they give you this, then you're going to give this in return. And part of my healing for me was recognizing toxic people and toxic signs and recognizing when it's time to stop trusting certain people because they're misusing and abusing that trust and recognize that it's not a reflection of me. I didn't do anything wrong necessarily in the sense of giving my trust to someone or giving my trust to the wrong person is essentially I had no reason to think or assume otherwise, to assume that they weren't safe or to assume that they weren't deserving of my trust until they showed me. And they showed me through their actions and they showed me through their words and a lack of consistency and a lack of love and a lack of everything else that came to being in a relationship. Part of the healing was part of the healing for me was working through my trauma, working through my mental health, working through the things that I didn't have. I working through the things so I didn't have to rely on somebody else for the most part to do it for me or to um, support me through it. And I feel like the part of the reason why I say that is because, and granted, I still had trauma and still had mental health things I had to work through, even being in the marriage and the relationship that I'm in now. But doing like the base foundational work, trusting the wrong person, I don't say the wrong person, but trusting someone who isn't healthy while you're trying to work on an unhealthy situation is gonna put you in a place, or at least it put me in a place where it pushed me further back than it did. It pushed me further back than I was, rather. Like trying to talk to somebody who really doesn't love me and really doesn't care about me, about my trauma, about my issues, about my mental health, and trusting that they're going to be there for me and not only dealing with the things that are already hard, but having to deal with this person who is showing me and telling me that they don't care for me and they don't want to help me, they don't want to support me, like I said, it pushed me further back than I needed to be. And part of that healing was me doing the work, me having to face it head on, me having to accept the fact that I'm not perfect and I do have things going on with me. And I have to work through these things. I have to face them in order for me to be healthy and in order for me to find healthy people or a healthy person to be in a relationship with. In order to recognize a healthy person, I myself have to be healthy, essentially, is what I'm saying. And also having the ability, once again, to understand when it's time to stop trusting people because they aren't worthy of my trust. They aren't worthy of me. So I don't think that people necessarily have an issue when it comes to trusting people. You have the ability to do that. I think that people are afraid of trusting somebody who has the potential to hurt them. And I think that's the risk that you take once you get into a relationship or once you're out seeking relationships. But once again, once you're able to identify when it's time to stop, once you identify when it's time to pull back, once you identify when to say, you know what, enough is enough because this person doesn't love me, this person doesn't care about me, this person doesn't want to be with me, I think and I believe that that's the difference maker right there. I know a lot of people say, well, I am healing. And I actually respond, what are you doing to heal? Well, I'm taking time to myself. Okay, what does taking time to yourself look like? Do you just stay to yourself and stay in the house and stay out the way and stay away from other people and hide yourself from the world because hiding yourself from the world you feel is easier than putting yourself out there and having experiences, because potentially having the wrong experience or a bad experience could lead to hurt and pain, and because you want to avoid that, it's easier to hide yourself than it is to put yourself out there. And that's not working on yourself. That's not going through a healing journey. That's not doing anything but keeping you stagnant, or even worse, push you further back from where you want to be. I'm not saying go out there and date every single person. I'm not saying go out there and meet every single person. What I am saying is that understand that people vary. People are different. And unfortunately, you might have a situation where you meet 5 people in a row and all 5 people are toxic. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. Maybe that 6th one is somebody who is not in the healthiest place, but they're working on it. They're a work in progress, which everybody is. No one's going to be perfect. You're not going to meet the ultimate healthy partner who has worked through all their trauma, all their issues, and they're just ready to be out there and date. I feel like everyone has something that they're working on when you meet them. The difference maker is that there's people who are actually working and there's people who are avoiding it and who are not working. And instead of doing what they need to do, they're out there hurting other people because that's easier than working through the stuff that they need to work through in order to become a healthy version of them, to have healthy relationships. I understand how scary it is to put yourself out there and to be vulnerable. I understand how scary it is to tell the person who might be your potential partner, hey, I have mental health things going on. Hey, I've been hurt in the past. Hey, I've been cheated on. Hey, I have a boatload of trauma. Hey, I am not in a financial predicament I want to be in. I'm not in a mental predicament I want to be in. Hey, I'm not the person I want to be today. But it doesn't mean that you're never going to be that person. It just means right now you're not that person. But once again, you're a work in progress. And when a person who understands that and who also reciprocates that to say, hey, I'm also a work in progress, let's work through this together, comes along, that's when you build a healthy version of yourself, but also that's when you and that person build a healthy relationship, because you two are working towards that goal, not only as individuals, but together as well. I don't think there's a such thing as a perfect person. I don't think you're going to meet a completely healthy person, but I do believe that there are people who genuinely want to love and to be loved. And they also understand when it's time to pull back that trust and to pull out of relationships when they are unhealthy, rather if it's because that person's verbally unhealthy or physically unhealthy, or the situation as a whole with that individual is unhealthy. And keep in mind that good people do bad things and also bad people do good things. And I think that's very important to remember, because you can have a person who has a good personality and who's an overall good person, but they're bad to you. And you can have a person who might be bad, but they also do good things, and that's possible as well. And if you want to simplify it, just understand that sometimes people do good things, sometimes people do bad things. You don't have to necessarily label them as good or bad, the individual themselves, but recognize that sometimes the actions necessarily aren't good and sometimes they aren't bad. I think and I feel that if you are an individual who's out there looking for love and out there looking for a relationship, know when it's time to stop giving. Know when it's time to stop loving. Know when it's time to stop trusting. Know when it's time to leave. And I think that part right there is imperative because people tend to stay and feel obligated to work out a relationship when they don't have to. They feel obligated to make it work, or they feel obligated to stay because if they don't, they feel like they're a bad person, or they feel like they shouldn't walk away because who else is going to be there for this person who's treating you like crap? Who else is going to love them the way you love them? Who else is going to care for them the way you care for them? And the answer is nobody might, because who would want to love a toxic person like that? And you're not obligated to. You're not less of a person if you don't. Or somebody might love them more than you. But that's not your problem. That's not your issue. Your main concern is always going to be you as an individual and making sure you're good and you're healthy. And that if that other person isn't considering you the way you're considering them, then it might be time to just look out for you because they aren't. You shouldn't feel bad for leaving a toxic situation when it's no longer beneficial, or a situation that's no longer beneficial because it's toxic. Let's word it that way. You shouldn't feel bad for walking away from somebody who is showing you and telling you that they don't love you, they don't care for you. It is not always and necessarily a reflection of you. It just might be that person who isn't ready for a relationship, or who doesn't want a relationship, or they're not genuinely looking for a relationship, or they're not doing the necessary things in order to maintain a relationship, but it's not always a reflection of you. Do people have the potential to hurt you? Absolutely. But they can only hurt you if you allow them to. And I say that because people will try to say things to get underneath your skin, to hurt you, and to hit you where you feel like it might hurt because that's a vulnerable place for you, and they understand what you've been through, and they understand where you went and what you've gone through, and they might try to use that against you, but they can only use it against you if you haven't accepted that it happened to you. They can only call you broke if you are ashamed of being broke. They can only call you stupid if you believe you're stupid. They can only call you insecure if you feel like, if you genuinely believe that you are insecure and your insecurity is a problem. Like, they can only use these things against you if you genuinely believe what they're saying to you. It's sticks and stones. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Meaning they could physically hurt you. You have no necessarily control over that except to try to create space between you and that person. But if they're just using words, that can only hurt you if you allow it. I feel like when you're in a healthy place, you're able to recognize the toxic aspect of people, and not just in an intimate relationship, but just in relationships in general. You know when it's time to separate yourself because somebody isn't healthy enough to be around you. They're disturbing your peace and your happiness. They're not contributing to the safe and healthy space that you want to create in order to have relationships with people. And it's okay to let those people go. It's okay to walk away. I'm going to end the video right there. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. Keep in mind that in order for you to have relationships, you are going to have to trust, but know when it's time to stop trusting people. If you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe. Leave your brother a thumbs up. I appreciate you all being here. And I'll see you all in the next video.